As you know, the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal is entering final negotiations. I know your eyes are rolling to the back of your head. This week in Hawaii, New Zealand is seeking greater gains for the dairy industry. It is make or break. Joining me now is Waikato University Professor of Agribusiness, Jacqueline Rowarth. Jacqueline, thank you very much for joining us again. It is make or break this week, isn't it? We've got to nail a deal, and dairy is at the top of the agenda.
Seems like it, and dairy being the top of the agenda is because Canada in particular is so protective of its dairy industry, and so it doesn't want us playing in the same markets.
I mean, let's talk Canada and actually Japan as well. Both have tariffs in excess of 200% on dairy.
Yes. Well, Canada is actually at 300% and, of course, subsidises its domestic market to protect it, reduce risks in the marketplace. So it excludes others playing in the same fields and supports its own farmers with income directly to the farmer. That's not to do with anything they produce. So it's a very protected market, same as Japan.
Given the portion, I know, and so when it comes to subsidies, there are many others that would be signatories to this that are causing us problems. When it comes to tariffs, we've mentioned the big ones. But for us, of course, for New Zealand, dairy makes up such a large chunk, at a minimum 25% of our foreign trade. Is it fair to say that without an attractive dairy deal, the TPP will not work for New Zealand?
Yes. And although some people like manufacturers are saying they're going to be put out of business because of cheap goods coming in from overseas, for New Zealand, if the income from dairy and other food products increases because of free market access, then actually the whole economy benefits and each individual is better off.
Yeah, I mean, put simply, because there are a lot of people right now, I know, listening to us and watching us, Jacqueline, whose eyes literally have rolled to the back of their heads. And they think, oh, TPP, oh, God, what even is it? It doesn't matter. It matters a great deal, because effectively what we're saying is we are quadrupling the potential market, if it works in our favour, for all of our products. And if we can add value to our products, then all of a sudden there are so many more consumers. It could be worth a fortune to us. But the deal, it has to be a free trade deal in dairy to work.
Yes. A free trade agreement should be just that, free trade on everything, and phased in not over 15 or 20 years, but as soon as possible, like now. And then the whole economy benefits because of our greater market access and our better positioning ability to get good value for our products.
Okay, now you make the point phased in. Obviously, Tim Grosser and his team of 15 in Hawaii, which is a substantial team, obviously they're not expecting everyone to just instantly capitulate straight away at 100%. So what is an acceptable, what's an acceptable compromise for us?
I'd much rather 5 years. The point about 15 or 20 is that it gives the countries that are holding out time to make non-tariff barriers to trade, to put in policies and processes that actually add costs in our country with no added value. It's things like temperature or purity or whatever. And remember, New Zealand already has very high quality food, and we're not able to pitch our product to some of the most valuable markets because of these tariffs.
You know, I'm getting a vibe from you, Jacqueline. I hope I'm not maligning you in this way, but I'm getting a vibe from you that you're not very hopeful of a great deal in terms of dairy and the TPP for us.
I hope that Minister Grosser is able to stand strong and actually say this is a deal breaker. If dairy, and that's dairy we're focusing on because Canada and Japan are so against it, but if food is not in the TPP, then there is no benefit for us because it doesn't open up marketplaces in the area where we have the competitive advantage. That is our ability to produce high quality food sustainably. So everything else is just a problem for us because of pharmaceuticals and cheap goods and the manufactured goods, and indeed the IP and legislation issues. So we must hold out for the area where we have the competitive advantage. That is food. Yes.
All right. So how tricky is it if we take the moral high ground and say this deal is not right for us, we're out, and everyone else signs? That from a trade point of view, that could be tricky for us too, couldn't it?
but we wouldn't be trading much. So the question would be whether then more sanctions came against us in our food area. Remember that food is still the bulk of the export economy, and all our efforts at getting a competitive advantage in other areas, which include IT and media and all of those sorts of things, have singularly failed over 30 years. We still come back to food. So that must be our bottom line. Sticking out, holding out for free trade on food.
What happens with because all of these things sort of cross-pollinate to a degree, what happens with our free trade deal with China if China signs up to the TPP and we don't?
I think that would then be the subject of more negotiations. China subsidises its agriculture by about 19%. It's certainly trying to get into modern-day agriculture, moving from peasant. But it's still a big market, and Chinese still need high-quality food that they trust from New Zealand. So I think we would still have the upper hand.
All right, Jacqueline, we'll talk to you again a little bit later once we know a little bit more coming out of Hawaii, but it is make or break this week. Jacqueline Rowarth, Waikato University Professor of Agribusiness, thank you very much for joining us again.